I'd like to call this policy committee meeting to order. Dr. Fagenbush, would you please call roll?
Mr. Mancuso.
Here.
Ms. Brent. Here. Ms. Anselm. Present. Ms. Jones. Here. Mr. Parity.
Here.
Everyone's present.
Okay, thank you. First item on the agenda, receive updates regarding the Assembly Policy Portal. Dr. Janet Pope from the Louisiana School Board Association. Dr. Pope, thank you for bearing with us this afternoon, evening. We appreciate you being here, and the floor is yours.
Y'all definitely practice good governance. I like the way that you follow the committee structure in the right way, and just very pleased with how y'all do that. So thanks again for the invitation. You're up and running on Assembly's meetings, and we said once that happened, we'd be looking at the Assembly platform. So I think all of you were at our board training that we did in August, and so I'm not going to go over that PowerPoint again. I know you have a lot of policies on deck to look at tonight. I gave you a folder, and there are 2 pages. So one of them is, these are tentative calendar policies. And basically, this is kind of what these sections look like. So remember, in our model policy manual, we use a numerical codification system, not alphabetical, which you are going to absolutely love. And it'll take some getting used to, especially your employees know a lot of these policies by heart. But once they realize if they need to add a policy, it's so much easier to be able to do it and keep it in chronological order. I call that, it's kind of like a library using the Dewey Decimal System. So in one of the tentative calendar examples that I gave to you, it shows you the sections that we have and how many policies are in each section. Also, the next page, this is just tentative, just to kind of give you an idea. This is where Natchitoches is already up and running and live. So we have 5 school systems currently right now that are jumping on deck, just like you guys, to start with their new policy manual. When you're ready and we get a tentative calendar together, then I can work with Calum and also with Elodie, where we're going to park your current manual. So the policies that I see that you have on deck right now, those are the last updates, correct? Okay, so when we finish with these, we can park your current manual, and then we can start working on your model policies. So if you look at the calendar, Section 00 and Section 100 can be done together. Y'all will breeze through both of these because a lot of Section 00 just kind of tells the setup of the policy manual and best practices. Section 100 deals with school board operations. So currently in CAPS, you have A, 100 matches A. When you look inside of your folder on the left-hand side, Alex, on our team, this is his specialty. He takes your current manual and he does a crosswalk for you. So if you look at where it says Section 100, 101 is about school board members. You can align that model policy to your current policy within those. When you first get started, and I kind of like the fact that you're starting with topics that you're familiar with in Section 100 and 200, because it deals with school board roles and responsibilities and also your operations. I would suggest at first that you kind of look at what your current manual is, so you can start getting an understanding of being able to compare. I would not do that in committee meeting because you don't want to take up time. I would do that before you come to committee meeting to do that. And then if you have some questions or suggestions that as a board member you want to bring up in committee, then you bring it up in the committee meeting. Okay. So here we have a crosswalk, Section 100, 200. And on the right-hand side, Alex, he printed the model policies for you. Now, all of this is going to be in your platform, and this is my favorite thing about the platform. It is all real time. So if Elodie is in a whole board meeting and you approve the manual, she clicks a button and it automatically goes in. There's no back and forth of emailing with anybody within that system. If you want to if Bob is currently looking at your policies now and providing input, you can give Bob access to it and he can get on the platform and see the drafts or the finals ones at any point in time on the platform. Y'all are gonna love it. No CD-ROMs. And I say that with love. I say that with love. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys like a jump start of what it looks like. Whenever y'all are ready, we can put a tentative framework together. Like I said, I just gave an example that you would get started in January. The other thing that I would suggest is when we get your platform ready with all the sections, you would start having your HR director start looking at the HR policies before it comes to the board. Have your maintenance supervisor look at the draft policies before it comes to the board. Because sometimes there are nuances in school systems where you have added to a policy and you want to carry that over into the new model policy. One of the sections.
Could
Yeah.
we do like a day of, like a workshop?
Yes, we can. I can come in. Actually, the training really on for y'all's side, like as board members, it's easy, to work on your side because they will give you access to what I call is what is hidden in the draft format. But we can, once we get the platform set up, we can come in, we can do training, and we can play on the back end if y'all want to do that.
Could the workshop look like, for example, I know you said the first two areas are easier.
Right.
Could the workshop just be the policy committee working through the 100s and the 00?
Absolutely.
That way we could see the whole process and kind of get through the kicks, and then from there it might be easier when we're doing the other things.
Yes. And so while you have your current manual parked, because you're going to have it parked for a year, maybe a year and a half. But while you're working on your new policy manual, so let's say tonight you did section 00 and section 100 as a committee, and you voted for all the changes, and you're ready to say, okay, it's in draft format. It can sit and wait until you do 200, 300, 400, all the way to the end. And in Natchitoches, that's what they did, and it worked really well for them because they did the whole policy manual at one time. At one time. But again, it's local autonomy. You get to decide, how you want to do it. In section 100, when you flip through, you'll see where things are highlighted in orange. That's what you would fill in. And also, too, you have options that you can choose from. And like I said, if you have certain nuances, and I'm just going to make this up, maybe the board said that, there's a $10,000 cap that they have to come to the board for approval on something. That's your own policy. So if you currently have that in your policy, you're going to definitely want to put that in your new manual. But all of this follows the laws. And as you can see, you can click on each law, whether it's federal, state, or BSEE guidance. All of those are live links that I put in for you. Yeah.
Dr. Pope,
Yes, sir.
you've gone through some type of legal review on this
Yes.
already.
So we have,
Who does that? Is it somebody on staff? Or?
yes, we have Danny Garrett on staff, and a lot of our policies we've also sent through John Geis, especially the human resources one, because that was Natchitoches' big rock, was human resources.
So, and I guess this would just be something to talk about. If we like the way the policy is written as is, I don't know that we necessarily have to get the approvals at that point, or are they already reviewed by? I mean, if it's John Geis.
Right.
Just something to think about that. I mean, some modifications that we may make, we have to get a legal approval on, but
Well,
if it's something that's already been reviewed
She
and we're
already
good
said,
with it,
she already said that, we could give access to Bob. Like, if we wanted to double check if he was on here, he could have access to it to review it too.
Okay.
I think that would help with us having sound mind.
sure, okay.
So if you go to court, Bob is the one that would go to court with you. Okay. I thought Bob was retiring. No, oh, sorry. Oh, Lord. Okay. I thought, okay.
So I think what Mr. Mancuso was speaking to, though, if it comes from you, we know it's already been reviewed by a legal team.
Right.
And if we accept it without any changes, then it wouldn't be necessary to do that additional step, because on our agenda, we always say, presented by Forethought Consulting as reviewed by. So if it's not reviewed by anyone and we don't have any changes, then we would just say,
Basically just
presented by,
speed the
yes.
process up a little bit to where it's not a back and forth with Bob.
Right.
Again, if they've already actually read this and reviewed it. Unless we decide to make any changes to it, then we would have to go through that additional step. So
Right.
it's kind of just what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And the good thing about having your specialists on your team, you know what I'm saying, in your central office, because again, they'll know the nuances that are particular to this school system. Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Because these are general, I mean, you know, the law, but general. But we're saying Mary Parish, that's Natchitoches, I think you were.
Natchitoches, right. So like I said, really your nuances would happen in HR if they would take something like to the next level, or maintenance and buildings.
So I know that after everyone looks at this, we're going to have more questions, and so we'll give you a call.
Yeah, and look, we're here anytime you have any questions, go ahead and call us. And another thing too is like Cheryl is very savvy in this, and of course we have Danny at the office 2 days a week. But let's say that you want to add something, you know, to this and get our team's thoughts. We're here for you. And again, Hammonds and Seals, they're your attorneys. So, you know, if you have questions, we definitely want you to ask them too, because at the end of the day, if something happens, it's your attorney that's going to court with you at the end of the day. Any questions?
Are there any other questions for Dr. Pope? Thank you. Huh? You don't want her to go?
Well, you know, we hear it. And again, these tentative calendars right here, you know, this is just all an example of how it can be done. Again, Natchitoches did set out a framework, but wanted to spend more time, especially on their HR section. And again, I'm proud of you guys, because y'all just y'all do a phenomenal job in your practices. So it's like Mama Bear is proud here of y'all. So thanks. But call us anytime, anytime. Now I need to get on the road because my daughter's panicking over a final dual enrollment exam for tomorrow. So
Thank you, Dr.
thank y'all. Appreciate you.
Uh,
Thank you for coming. Anytime. I love this neck of the woods.
Dr. Fagenbush, if we're going to go through and try to do the 100, 200 in that January committee meeting, I guess the staff that needs to start reviewing that would be applicable to those items, give them access to that.
Yes, and they're simple ones, the beginning. So we'll kind of follow the structure that's here, and we'll look at what we have that would transfer over. And one of the things that I would like to do too is, we have every page printed for our policy manual. Perhaps we can start aligning them where they would fall so that we can kind of get a better understanding, and we'll get help of where that alignment is, because I know you've got it all laid out somewhere for everyone. So, because you know specifically how many policies, so I'm sure we could kind of, which one's the easiest, maybe even to tackle within each numerical piece, so we could start, so.
0, 0, 100, 200.
It's pretty basic, yeah.
And like I said, go into your department heads, that, like, they can all get it. Once we get the platform up, I wouldn't wait for HR, for when HR comes up. HR should
Right.
look at it now. And again, those are really where you'll find your nuances of where things may be a little different and unique to the school system.
Okay. And so perhaps if the committee, maybe tomorrow, if you have a suggestion on if you would like to do a workshop in January, maybe a weekend workshop where we can work on 00100s and kind of get through the process that first time together. If y'all want to do something like that, or maybe talk it over and bring a suggestion.
Hopefully, there's not 12 policies to go through in January, and we can use the time for the workshop. So,
I think this is it.
okay.
And then the other thing too is if your other manual is parked, right? And then we get through session, I guarantee you will have every single update by Labor Day. You will have each example of how it aligns, it gives you an explanation. The only ones you won't have is the ones that the AG is looking at or the governor, because there's really no point. So I guarantee you that you will have them all by September. And we'll just park them with the other.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pope, again. Okay, next item on the agenda, number 2, policies to review for consideration at the next board meeting. A, notification of school board meetings, BCBB. So everyone has gotten the policy alert from Forethought and also the recommendations from Bob Hammonds. Any questions or comments on BCBB? I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Parity motions, Ms. Anselm seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One carries. All right, 2B, school board meeting, news coverage and broadcasting, BCBJ. Again, also recommended by legal with no change. Any questions, comments?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Parity to approve, second by Ms. Jones. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That one carries. Okay, 2C, employment of superintendent, CED. CED also recommended for approval by attorney with no changes. Any questions or comments to that one?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, Ms. Parity, Ms. Anselm, seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries. D, personnel records, GAK. Reviewed by legal, recommended for approval with no change. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. It says that their personnel records are also there relative to compensation. Does that mean the change in compensation over the years? The second paragraph, it's saying what it contains, like what the personnel file contains. It also says records relative to compensation. Does that mean change in compensation records also?
Let's say you change positions or something, so your records will note that change. Or For example, sometimes Ms. Este will come down and we have been able to verify previous employment for someone who has come in, maybe a clerical position. We can give up to 5 years of related experience to maintenance, clerical, those kinds of things. If they bring in the proper paperwork with a letterhead from the previous employer and all those things, then we can give up to a certain amount, so that's verified and documented in their folder.
Okay. Right, their certifications and everything. So with their certifications, does the change in, like if they changed in schedule, that's still in their records with that for personnel files? Yes. Okay.
So like we had one that went from a TAT to a. We had a teacher that went from a TAT, which is a temporary authority to teach, to a practitioner license, which the state recognizes. So that person, we did the route slip because it did change their salary because they fall on their salary schedule now. So that makes.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, looking for a motion? Ms. Brent makes a motion, Ms. Jones seconds. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All right, E, use of pronouns and given names, GAMK. Any questions or comments on that one?
Just the recommendation by Hammond itself.
Oh, yeah, that was recommended. Let's see, what did he recommend on that one? GAMK. Yeah, so his recommendations wanted to change a little bit of the wording. That's noted in green.
Right, it's provided by law.
Yep.
That's provided by law, basically. Okay, any other questions, comments? Looking for, Ms. Brent makes a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I have a second. Ms. Jones seconds. Any comments?
So it is with recommendations from Hammond, right?
With the recommendation, Ms. Brent, can you clarify? Yes, ma'am. And second, okay. All right, so recommended with the recommendations by Mr. Hammonds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, F, recruitment, GBC. GBC was recommended by legal with no changes. Any comments or questions? Okay, otherwise looking for a motion? Ms. Anselm makes a motion. Ms. Jones seconds. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, G, sex education, IDBA. IDBA was recommended for approval with no change, but we have a question. Ms. Anselm?
I do have some questions on this. Can we, is this as much as we teach in sex education, and are parents informed before that happens?
All parents have the option to opt out.
Okay.
So they, if they opt out, they can choose to perhaps do an online version of the health course or some other way of completing the requirements that don't require the student to be face-to-face in person.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because it didn't say that they had an alternative, just that you could opt out. Okay. I make a motion to approve IDBA.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Anselm. Ms. Jones seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, H, health education, IDB. What's that? Yeah, there's no changes to that. I was wondering why that was, because no change on that one. I don't think we need any, no action on that, really, just leave it alone. I don't think we need a vote unless there's any action. Okay. We'll move to I, Education of Students with Exceptionalities, IDDF. Dr. Fagenbush, I asked you about this one a little bit the other day. I thought it was a great explanation. Would you mind just?
Basically, the years that they're referencing for change here are of the age of 14, 15, 16, or 17 years old. We have an age of majority, in our country of 18 when it comes to students in our school system. But there are some concerns that perhaps students of varying ages in those younger years may not have received maybe all the information. So they want students to be present as they begin to transition from their teens until 18, 19, 20, if they're still in school. And then also if there's any transition of who is considered the legal guardian and/or person in charge of themselves, then they want to make sure that is well understood as we transition our students out of our special education programs.
Appreciate that. So I didn't quite understand the way that it was worded for that, but appreciate that clarification.
So like how it was before is we had to notify them at 17 years of age, and so now it's telling us we need to start it sooner.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because at 17, you really don't have a whole lot of time to get it done.
Right.
So.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that one? Otherwise, looking for a motion? Ms. Brent, second. Ms. Jones. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Student Health Services, item J, JGC. Any questions, comments on JGC? Mr. Hammonds recommended to include the wording that training may be incorporated into an existing in-service training program. It's marked in green, should be marked in green in your copies. Reading it, I agree with his recommendation, but any comments or questions?
I do have a comment. I don't think it affects necessarily the policy, but I know in some other parishes when permission slips were sent home for some students that they could receive vaccines or otherwise in healthcare centers that are in the schools as we're creating new ones. Some parents kind of got a little bit upset about it, thinking that they were asking for personal information, not understanding that with student health services and the health centers, those are authorized questions. So
Even with our student health centers, that permission has to be granted to the health center in order for them to service the student. So nothing will be given or asked of them unless it's already been granted by the parent to participate.
right, so what I'm kind of asking if it would affect us or not is maybe explaining to the parent that the reason it's being sent home is because it is an actual running health facility that is located within inside the school, because it created some confusion and misinformation in other parishes. I'm just looking at the foresight of us doing what we're doing so we can avoid that here, because I think this is a great program, and it is kind of necessary to ask those questions if students would want to receive those services. So later on, maybe if it could get added to something like this, or we could just send an extra little note home attached to it. Either way.
It is part of like the requirements because they do follow, it's federally programmed, funded, and there are certain requirements that they do have to follow. And I know that they do an entire student health exam, like a very thorough one when they do that. So all of those permissions are asked, but we can definitely make sure they understand.
I just wanted it reiterated so it would not cause St. Mary Parish some of the confusion that I watched other parishes happen when they rolled it out.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on Student Health Services, JGC? Otherwise, looking for a motion?
I make a motion to accept Student Health Services, JGC, please.
With Mr. Hammond's recommendation?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Anselm. Ms. Jones seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item K, this one, was tabled, at the last, it's been tabled for a little while. It's Employee Sick Leave Bank, GBRIBB. In your packets, you should have a possible revision that, Dr. Fagenbush kind of started working on. I think it's still a little preliminary, hasn't gone through legal review yet. I'd like to just kind of make the mention that we're presenting it. Please read it, go through it if you have any comments. Let Dr. Fagenbush know we do want to get it reviewed by legal. Dr. Fagenbush, you want to add?
So what I did was pulled out some other parishes that did go ahead and had followed through on adopting the policies related to this. And there was some verbiage there that really clearly delineated what was the difference between sick leave bank and donor sick time. And so that's really where the changes are when you see that it's either clearly stated that they're participating in the sick leave bank or they are individually donating directly to another employee. So that way it's pretty clear that they're not the same thing. While it is sick leave, one is about the specific bank that we have and the other is direct donation. And they're different things, but have a lot of the same similarities as far as requirements for eligibility. So it's rough, but
So, I don't, so I don't think we take any action. I mean, this is my opinion. I don't think we take action tonight, being that it hasn't gone through legal review. I did read through, Dr. Fagenbush's, revision there. I mean, I like it. I'd like them to legal review it and kind of go from there. But, my recommendation would be to take no action. I don't know if we need to table it until next month or.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it doesn't need to be more, so
So-
table it till next month.
have a motion to table it?
I'll make a motion to
Okay,
table it.
I have a motion to table it by Ms. Parity. Ms. Jones seconds that. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the motion carries to table sick leave bank. Okay, item L, gifts and donations, DFK, another one of those that's been kind of lingering for us. So I had one comment, one question, I guess, about the requirement that principals keep a permanent record. I didn't see, I mean, I printed the referenced laws that are on there. I don't see that requirement in those. I mean, it could be another law somewhere else where that requirement's coming from. I do not know the answer. I don't like to put that burden on our principals. That's really been my main hang-up with this policy. I don't like that in there at all. If I can't find where it's coming from, I would like to strike that out. But, any other comments, questions, discussion on it?
I feel the same as you do on that one. If it's not coming from, anything from legal, from state or federal, I don't find the necessary need to have our principals track it. And is it?
Do we have clarification on that, Dr. Fagenbush? Or no? Okay.
as well. But we did talk about perhaps just putting verbiage in there that we will follow guidelines as established by Louisiana Public Record Regulations and Guidelines. And that way, whatever is in there means that we will follow the public records requirements. I mean, that's what, as they relate to educational entities, we could even clarify, you know.
The system itself is a St. Mary Parish school system, they're talking about principals, right?
Right. Basically, this is saying that any donation that comes through to a principal, they would have to keep a public record of it.
Right.
And I mean, we all know that sometimes people donate an old printer or they donate $15 or there's a group that donates something to a club or organization. And we're not saying we don't note that because we do in our financial records. But We're just saying that it would be very difficult for them to do a public record of every single penny, you know, as far as record donations, so, and gifts that were given to a school.
So how would you suggest we reword it? Just strike that from it and just add whatever?
That we,
state
that
or-
we will follow all guidelines established by the Louisiana Public Records requirements for public entities. I mean, it's just something like that, because it's all written there for us, and we follow it, so.
Okay.
And nowhere, like you said, do we see, but we can again ask legal, but I can't find that specific verbiage.
Are you good with that?
I'm good with that. I didn't like that, I didn't like that burden on the principals. I thought that was, yeah, unrealistic, really.
Can I move to make a motion to accept this with the exception of adding that we will follow whatever the guidelines are as far as state without anything secretarial as a burden on the principals in the verbiage?
So,
Can we do that?
yeah, I mean, I would like to get a little bit more specific in the writing, and maybe we, let Bob look at it and kind of do it with the same one. If he's gonna be coming back and we approve, sick bank leave, maybe we go ahead and write it up, send it to him, let him,
So I
Let
make a
him review it,
motion
then we
to
just-
table it and send this to legal, send
With-
DFK to legal along with GBRIBB for review,
with the recommended.
with the
verbiage
recommended verbiage.
Change on the
Correct.
requirement for retention. Okay, we have a motion. All right, Ms. Jones seconds. Any other discussion or comments? All right, all those in favor with that? Say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Which one? Okay, aside from that, Ms. Anselm?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Ms. Anselm makes a motion to adjourn. Ms. Jones seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.